Good morning, friends. Today I want to discuss one of the questions which is also answered in a second PU solution chapter as the application of KH value. Okay, so let's see what is the question. The question is why helium gas is diluted in a diving apparatus. Okay, why helium gas is diluted in diving apparatus, or the scuba divers used compressed air tank in that mix with the helium. Why? What is the reason? Okay, so to answer this question, first of all we'll see what will be the condition when scuba divers they are in underwater. Okay, so when suppose this one is a surface area and this one is a underwater. So when scuba divers they are in a underwater, they experience more pressure compared to the surface. So what happens when pressure is increases, more amount of gas will be dissolved in the blood. Okay, and when they come back to the surface or come towards the surface, the dissolved gas will be because when they come back to the surface, pressure is obviously the pressure will be decreases. So all these dissolved gases which will be dissolved in the blood will be released in the form of a bubble, or you can say that it's a nothing but the nitrogen bubble. And that bubble will block the capillaries, and also they create a medical condition called bends, and which is very painful and also dangerous to life. To avoid this condition, avoid this medical condition called burns. Okay, the scuba diver carry a tank, okay, that consists of a helium gas. Now what is the role of helium there? I will tell you. As we know that the normal air surround us, normal air consists of 78% of nitrogen and the 21% of oxygen. Okay, if you use this proportion of nitrogen and oxygen in a tank carried by the scuba divers, then that will be a problem, because more amount of nitrogen is present and that will be released at the surface in the form of a bubbles, and that causes the bends. Okay, so what will do, the in scuba diver they carry the compressed tank which consists of, will reduce in percentage of nitrogen by 56.2% of nitrogen in a tank which is carried by the scuba divers. Okay, and the percentage of oxygen will be increased, that is 32.1% of oxygen, and along with that 11.7% of helium is added. Okay, so that the less amount of nitrogen will be dissolved in the blood at underwater. Okay, now here more amount of oxygen is also, if it is there is more amount of, if percentage is more than this percentage 32.1, that will be also causes the problem, that is nothing but toxicity of excess of oxygen. Okay, that is also toxic. But here we can see that the amount of oxygen which is dissolved underwater by the scuba divers blood, okay, that will be used by the many metabolic process and in oxidation process, so there will be no problem. But problem with the nitrogen, it will not used by the any cells, it will be remain in the blood as a soluble. Okay, it remain as a soluble or dissolved in the blood. Okay, and along with that 11.7% of helium will be also be that will be also dissolved. Okay, we should know, to compare the we should know the KH value, that is nothing KH value of these three gases. Okay, what is this KH value? I'll tell you. The KH is nothing but the Henry's constant in a Henry's law is nothing but P is equal to KH into X, where P is the partial pressure, KH is the Henry's constant, X is the molar fraction. I will tell you. First of all, we'll see the KH value for these three gases. The KH value for helium is nothing but 144.97, and for oxygen it is 34.86, and for nitrogen it is 76.48. Okay, so always remember that higher the KH value, lower will be the solubility in the blood. Okay, higher the KH value, lower will be the solubility of that particular gas in the blood. So if you look at this value, we can say that the helium has the highest KH value. That means solubility of a helium in the blood will be less compared to the nitrogen and oxygen. Okay, so what happens when scuba divers they came back to the surface? When they came back to the surface, slowly, they should come slowly. Why? Because I'll tell you, the scuba divers, when started to came back toward the surface, simultaneously helium gas is released. Okay, because the solubility of helium gas is very low. In the blood. Immediately, simultaneously, along with the scuba divers, helium gas is released. So when they come to the surface, almost pressure will be decreased. Okay, because of the low pressure at the surface, the pressure will not be decreased suddenly. Okay, low pressure, less amount of nitrogen will be released. Nitrogen will not be released at the starting point, but it will be released with the very decreased pressure. Suddenly, if it is decreased, and at the surface only, nitrogen gas will be released. Okay, to decrease that pressure, we are adding this helium gas, because helium gas, which has a less solubility in the blood. Okay, at the starting point only, the helium gas is started to release. Okay, so it is always said that the scuba diver should not come very fast to the surface. Slowly they should come, so that the almost the pressure will be decreased through this helium gas, and the pressure will be decreased at the surface. Okay, so less amount of nitrogen bubbles will be created. Okay, it's a negligible amount of nitrogen gas will be created because of the presence of helium. Okay, so it should not create the medical condition called bends or nitrogen bubbles. Thank you. Okay, so this is the one of the you can say that this is the one of the application of a KH value. Application of KH value, nothing but the Henry is constant. Okay, one more question we can solve that. Looking at the KH value for the oxygen at a 293 temperature, it is nothing but 34.86, whereas the oxygen KH value at a 303 temperature, it is 46.82. Okay, so if temperature increases, solubility of oxygen will be decreases in the water. Here you can see that the higher the KH value, okay, lower will be the solubility. So because of this reason, that means at the increased temperature, the KH value for oxygen will be increases. That means low amount of oxygen is dissolved in the water. And at a 293, that means if temperature decreases, KH value also decreases, and the solubility increases of that oxygen gas in a water, so that more amount of oxygen will be available. So because of this reason, aquatic species are more comfortable in cold water rather than in a warm water. Aquatic animals are more comfortable in a cold water rather than a warm water. So this is the one of the another application of KH value. And also the one more, to increase the solubility of a carbon dioxide in a solid